discover something that has been in existence, but it is not known. People don't know that this thing exists. So, it is in the course of research that brings out this to be able to be known, so that people will say, wow, so this actually exists. And that is what research is all about. It's an inquiry, something at a point in time that one may be going through a work or maybe in his or her field. And something will just be disturbing the person in the heart. And as it continues to disturb in the heart, one will begin to speak it out or put it down. How can this thing be resolved? How is it possible for one to go from here to there? When such questions begin to arise in someone's heart, it is preparing such a heart for a research. So any inquiry, any examination, any investigation that is conducted for the purpose of gaining new knowledge, understanding something that has been in existence but is not known to such a person, it is what? Research. And I said again that it is a search for knowledge. There's no other thing that research does than what? Searching for knowledge. And I have said before that it is not in itself trying to bring something out of nothing. It is only trying to help someone to know something that is in existence, but all the while is not known, even to the scientific community. Such a thing is not known. So when one is embarking on a research, one is searching for that knowledge that is in existence, but it is not yet known, or it is not yet brought out to the scientific community to know that this is actually in existence. I said it is an original contribution to an existing stock of knowledge in order to make for its advancement. If research, for instance, in your own field, in health sciences, if research stopped from the point in time even before we were born, there are so many things that one wouldn't have known today. Is it true? If people had stopped researching in health sciences, maybe in the year 1950, for instance, there are so many things that we know today in our various areas of specialization that we wouldn't have known. That we don't know them doesn't mean they don't exist. But because nobody has tried to find out that thing, it will not be what? Known. And all of us would have been wallowing in ignorance. I hope it's understood. So, what research does is to look at what is already known. Something that is already in existence that is known by the scientific community. And someone, research, tries to gather this knowledge that is already known and then try to do what? Expand the knowledge. Try to put something on top of the knowledge. Accepted to go into research. I hope it's clear. Any single one that is doing a PG program is a research student. And the person is qualified to be called a researcher. So all of you are researchers. So we have seen what research is all about. And we have now noted that it is a process. It begins from somewhere and it continues. Even after your PG program here, the research you have started may still continue. I hope it's understood. How it because finishing your program here, that because of the research you have done, it has opened door for several research topics. I hope it's understood. You have, in order to solve a particular problem, in order for you to find one particular thing, only one thing, at the end of your study here, you will be able to find out that. Is that clear? But by finding out that has opened door for several other questions. You said that this is equal. How will it move from this point? If I take it from this point to move up, what will it be? If I decide to shift it back again, what will it become? If I take it to the right, how will it perform? If I drop it down, will it still continue to be what it is? All these suggestions are what? Research ideas that are now jumping up. Is that clear? So, it is left for you, as you are finishing our program, you have solved only one particular problem. You may decide, having solved this problem and having seen that several other problems have now come up, the question will be, should I continue? You, as an individual, may continue to solving some of those other questions that are coming up. Is that clear? But even if you decide not to, I have seen some people that will say, me, I'm not going to school again. I have settled everything with academics. I don't know if you have seen such person before. Good. So, even though someone here may be, after this program, may say, me, I'm not doing research again. That is not a problem. Because every research output that is good is documented somewhere. I'm sure we know that. Every research output that is what a research output is always documented somewhere. People will look at where that particular finding of yours is documented. And those questions that are jumping up in your heart, even many more, will be jumping up in the hearts of so many that will read this your research finding. Is that clear? And they will take it over from you and continue. So it doesn't end. It is a process that begins somewhere. Even before all of us were born, there had been research. And there will not be an end to research. I hope it's understood. There won't be an end to research until all of us, until man leaves Earth. Research will continue. If you say you don't want to do it again, thousands of people are interested in research. And every day, people are doing research. And people will continue to do research. So it is a process. And it is as a result of research that me and you are becoming better. Research makes people to be what? Better. How? People will be much more informed as a result of what? Research outputs. So it is a wonderful thing that research has continued. So this process of knowledge acquisition can come through many ways. It can come through the use of appropriate scientific methods. And that's most importantly, I said, in scientific method. It can as well come out of reasoning. It can come out of intuition. And how do I mean? When we are talking of each of these, we say that it can come through the use of appropriate scientific methods. That is the one that concerns us as we will be meeting within this period. We will be talking about scientific methods. But at the same time, it can as well come through in reasoning. Somebody may just be reasoning and the reasoning and the reasoning, and out of reasoning is something will jump out of someone's reasoning, and that becomes maybe a finding. It can as well come through intuition. And how do I mean? Someone is just looking at nature or looking at anything, and something will just jump into the person's heart, And that becomes what? Maybe process of knowledge acquisition. Now, when we have talked about all of this to the research, but at that point where in the last part of that slide, we talked about process of knowledge acquisition through either of these three ways, either of the use of appropriate scientific methods, either through reasoning, either through intuition. As a consensus here, we will be looking at research that is through scientific methods. I hope it's clear. I don't doubt the fact that somebody may be sleeping and the person wakes up and the Holy Spirit ministers to the person about something that people did not know before. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. But such a thing is not what we have come to discuss today. Is that clear? Because to us as scientists, we don't understand that one. What we understand is scientific techniques. Is that clear? That as a result of that, it is equally not out of place that somebody may subject himself to serious reasoning about a particular thing. And out of such reasoning, maybe some superior powers will begin to minister to such a person to give the person ideas. We don't rule out that possibility, but that is equal not to what we have come to discuss today. Is that clear? And because of that, that is what is taking us to the next slide, scientific research. We will not be discussing research generally. We will only be discussing what? Scientific research. And what is then scientific research? I have said that research can be scientific or non-scientific. Its scientific or non-scientific nature is not determined by the phenomenon. For instance, what do I mean by this? It is not what you are trying to find out that determines whether the research you are doing is scientific or not. I don't know if it's understood. Do I need to explain that further? Okay. You know, there are certain things that we look at and say that this one is science. Is it not so? Some things are not science. Is it not so? Even in disciplines, we have scientific disciplines and the non-scientific disciplines, like the arts and humanities. Is it not so? Good. Let's look at it, for instance. Someone who is a pure artist. Maybe let's take a particular example in the art world. Maybe someone that is a grammarian. Maybe the person has studied English and the person is just a wonderful grammarian. The person there is no English, the person will not be able to analyze, to bring out all the components of English grammar. Is that clear? So such a person is a wonderful grammarian. This person is not a scientist. Is it not so? And the grammar is not scientific. Is it true? Good. But then, not minding the fact that English grammar is not scientific. Okay? Someone may be interested in finding out something in grammar. Is that clear? The question will be, that thing the person wants to find out in grammar, is it a scientific research or is it not a scientific research? First of all, what will jump into someone's heart is because the person is trying to find out something in grammar. Therefore, it is what? A non-scientific research. Is it not so? Because grammar is not what? Science. Is that understood? But it is not true. Finding out something in grammar does not make a research to be scientific or non-scientific. What makes the research to be scientific or non-scientific is the process of finding it out. Is that clear? It is not the subject of the study that determines whether a research is scientific or not. Rather, what determines whether a research is scientific or not is the process of finding out whatever thing you want to find out about anything. Is that clear? I hope it's understood now. So that is exactly what is contained, what I have said in the second bullet, that is scientific or non-scientific nature is not determined by the phenomenon of interest. It's not determined by the subject of study. It is determined by the process of finding out that. I hope it's clear. So research is scientific when it follows an objective and systematic method. Any research that one is conducting and it follows a systematic and objective method, we will say that that research is what? Scientific. Because you will be able to draw steps that you are going to follow to arrive at the what? The result. And you judiciously begin to follow the steps. From this point, I will do that. From that one, I will do the other. From the other one, I will do the other. And all these steps are well defined and well spelled out. And one goes into doing them from one step to the other, from one step to the other, until the end. By the time the person gets to the end, there is a result that is produced. And whatever is the result that is produced becomes the what? The output of the research. I hope it's clear. So such a research is what? Systematic. It is, because it is systematic, it is what? Scientific. And that is exactly what scientific research is. It comprises defining and redefining problems, formulating hypotheses or suggested solutions, collecting, organizing, and evaluating data, and making inferences to reach conclusions about the subject of study. That is what a scientific research is all about. Every scientific research makes use of all of this. And it is when someone is going through this process of defining and redefining and going through all of them until coming onto what? A conclusion. It is then that the person will say that I am conducting a scientific research. There are arms of a scientific research. There are basically arms of a scientific research. And that is what we want to look at. Number one is the theoretical research. And what is a theoretical research? A theoretical research is concerned with the development of abstract concepts about a phenomenon and the relationships between those concepts. When one is involved in such a research, the person is conducting a theoretical research. And every theoretical research is what? Is scientific. What do we mean by theoretical research? You know, all of you are in health sciences. You research on human beings. Is it true? Every of your research is on human beings. And it's very wonderful because your research outputs have continued to make life better. Is that true? Okay. Your research outputs have continued to make life better and have continued to expose so many things that human beings need to know about themselves. And it's very wonderful. But then, there are so many other persons that are involved in research who don't research on human beings. We know. Not just that they don't research on human beings, they don't even research on things that people can see. They don't research on, maybe someone may say, okay, if you don't research on human beings, maybe you are researching on objects. Maybe you are researching on other animals. Maybe you are researching on this or that. There are some persons that research on soil. Is that true? I know of a good number of my colleagues over there that research on soil. People, for instance, the geologists, they have no other thing they do than to each time they will tell that they are going on field trip. And where do they go to? They will go to one forest, and then they will bring out one rock. This type of rock, the other one, the other one, the other one, they will pick all of them, and they will take them to their lab, and they will begin to analyze them, and they're analyzing rocks. And some of them will tell that they are engineering geologists. They will begin to look at soil, different aspects of soil, different layers of soil, and the ones that are strong and the ones that are not strong, the ones that people should build upon and the ones that people should not build upon. And at the end of the day, this is what they always come out with as their research outputs. And it's very wonderful because such a thing as well is helping humanity. Is that clear? But there are some persons that don't research on things that people could easily see. And those people subject themselves to abstract research. Research that will not produce anything, things like that. For instance, when I was trying to introduce myself, I told us that we don't actually deal with the type of research that people do. But we, at the same time, can conduct research. And I'm sure one of the things that have brought us together is that some of my outputs, you people use them. Is that clear? Some of my outputs, you people make use of them. Personally, I belong to statistics, and every research I do is on statistics, and I'm sure you people make use of statistics a lot. Is it true? So you people use my research outputs. But there are some of those things that we do over there that may not make meaning to any human being, that may not appear to be, maybe appealing to someone to look into. But then we go and continue to look at them, X, Y, Z, and we are joining them together. We are cutting them. We are dissecting them. We are analyzing them. And at the end of the day, it will produce a result. And sometimes we will now begin to give human face to that result. And we begin to say that if you do this or that, that maybe you will be able to use it to achieve this particular result or not. Is that true? So for us, for people like us, we engage ourselves in theoretical research that don't appeal to human beings ordinarily, except when someone begins to look at such things very closely, we'll find out that they are very interesting things that people, if one maybe gets to know them and one begins to look into that, someone will get to a point he will say that if he doesn't do this thing in a day, he will not feel comfortable. That's the kind of research that we do. They have taken our life, but at least you can still hear my voice, right? So we'll continue. While I believe that they will come up with an alternative power supply. The next type of arm of research is empirical research. Empirical research. Most of you that are in this workshop engage in empirical research. And what is empirical research? He says that it is concerned with the theoretical concepts and relationships to see how well they reflect our observations of reality. It is based on observations. Any research that is based on observations is empirical. How do we mean by observations? Maybe I will give an example. Maybe someone is trying to carry out a research on maybe incidence of a particular disease. And we know that the best place to find the people that have a disease should be in the hospital. Is it true? So someone goes to the hospital on a particular day, and what is the person looking for? That person is looking for people that have that particular disease, people that are suffering from that disease. And as the person is interviewing maybe all the patients that come to that particular hospital in that day, the person is looking out for only one thing. And the moment the person sees someone that is suffering from that particular disease is interested in, that person will say that I have recorded what? A success. Is it not so? Even though when we look at success in life, how can someone suffering from a disease, how can it be success? Ordinarily speaking, in real life speaking, is it meant to be successful? Is it meant to be something that someone will say, maybe I went to hospital today, I was very successful. Why? Because I saw someone suffering from this particular disease. But it is Because of the fact that the person, that is the only headache the person has. The person is looking for people that have that particular disease. Anytime the person sees one, the person has recorded what? A success. So any research that is based on such observations, you go to the hospital today, by the time you finish interviewing all the patients that came, maybe you recorded up to 6 of them. Observation 1, observation 2, observation 3, 4, and 5, and 6. You have 6 respondents, you have 6 observations you have made. So, any information that you are now getting from these 6 individuals you have observed, when you have such information, you will subject the information to analysis, and at the end of the day, you will report the what? The output, the result of the analysis. Such a research is what? Empirical. Why? It is because it is based on what? Observations. I hope it's understood. So, majority of us that belong to this side of research community, we engage ourselves in empirical research. Is that clear? That is another arm of research. So research can either be, as we have put it, either it is theoretical or it is what? Empirical. Is that clear? Now let's go to steps of scientific research. The steps that we follow in scientific research. Number 1 step is to choose a question to investigate. And I have put it to discover a gap. We shall come to that in details as it concerns what a research gap is. So, number 1, like I said, choose a question to investigate. Discover a gap. Anything that is called a research has a question that it is trying to do what? Answer. A research cannot be called a research if it has no question that it is trying to answer. Is that clear? If someone, for instance, is in this program and the person doesn't have any question that he or she is trying to answer, then such a person is not involved in what? In research. To be involved in research means that I have a question that I am trying to solve, I'm trying to answer. It is not like a case of maybe we wake up in the morning where we decide, let us trek, let's have a walk. So maybe 1 kilometer walk in the morning. And someone begins to have a walk, 1 kilometer walk in the morning. And in the course of the 1 kilometer walk in the morning, the person discovers something that is very interesting. The person comes back and reports that, do you know, while I was having my walk this morning, can you imagine, look at what I discovered. Is that clear? That person has discovered something wonderful, is it not so? But then, was the person actually involved in research? No. Do you know why? Because the person did not set out any goal. There was no question. That thing that the person said he discovered was never ab initio intended to be discovered. Is that clear? So, for it to become a scientific research means that that very question what has been set out from the very beginning. And maybe part of answering the question may be to take that route. As you move in that route, you will find an answer to that. It is only then that the person will be saying that I discovered something scientifically. If it is not that way, there's no scientific research. So you must first of all, every single scientific research must start from somewhere. And where it must start from is to choose a research question, to choose a question to investigate, to choose a question to answer. It is only then that a person will be able to say that I'm in a research. And just like all of you that are involved in research program, it means that the day that you will tell yourself you have found a research question may be the day maybe your supervisor has approved your topic. Is that clear? Because for a topic to be approved, it means that there is a question in that topic that needs to be what? Answered. That is the beginning of every scientific research. But of course, by the time you finish this program, I know that some of you will still continue in research. And because you will still continue in research, you will no more be looking for a research, maybe a topic that your supervisor is going to approve for you. Rather, you will be the one that will now be deciding a research question that you are going to solve. And the moment you see that question and it becomes interesting to you, you go on to do what? To answer that particular question, and you are in research. So the number 2 important aspect is to identify a hypothesis related to the question. Before, once a question, you have conjectured a question that needs to be answered in research. The question will be, what are the hypotheses that are related to this particular question? In other words, if I may put it in a better way, when I have raised a research question that needs to be answered, this research question may not be answered just once. There may be need of things, different aspects that we need to be what? That we need to be answered. In other words, for me to answer this research question, I will need to answer this, give an answer to this. I will need to give an answer to B. I will need to give an answer to C. I will need to give an answer to D. By the time I combine these 4 answers, 4 of them would have done what? Would have brought about what? An answer to that research question. Is that clear? And still, as all of you that are in research program, to identify hypotheses could mean maybe to get specific objectives that every research has an aim. Is it not so? The aim of the research is actually the research question that you want to answer. But for you to be able to address this aim, there are specific objectives that you need to do what? You need to cover. As you cover these objectives, by the time you succeed in covering all the objectives, you would have succeeded in doing what? In giving an answer to this research aim. Is that clear? So, identify a hypothesis related to the question. Number 3 is make testable predictions in the hypothesis. You need to predict testably. Then number 4 is to design an appropriate experiment to answer the hypothesis. We shall meet all of these things as we progress. But what we are trying to do is to lay the foundation. Is that clear? Then number 5 is to collect data in experiments. When you have designed the experiment that you want to follow, you want to conduct, you conduct the experiment, and the end process, the end product of every experiment is what? Data. If you say that you are conducting an experiment, and at the end of this experiment you don't have data, then you did not conduct an experiment. The very end product of every experiment is what? Data. So we collect data. Number 6 is to determine results and assess their validity. Number 7 then is to determine if results support or refute your hypothesis. Remember, you have made hypothesis at the beginning, then the results you have obtained, are they in line with the hypothesis or are they against the hypothesis? As you are doing all of these things, you are just doing what? You are satisfying various steps that are followed in scientific research. Then we want to look at this research gap. And what is a research gap? We are going to take the research gap from the point that we have said in the steps of a scientific research. We said that the first step is to identify a question. Is that clear? So we are going to be looking at a research gap from that point. So what is a research gap? And the answer is this, that an unanswered research question or unresolved problem in a field which reflects lack of existing knowledge in that space. Every research gap is no other thing but an unanswered question. You will find out that as you are reading through materials in your area, it will come to a point you will say that I have read so many materials in this area, but I have actually not found anyone addressing this particular problem. Is it not so? And if it is actually true that none of the research outputs in that particular area has addressed this particular problem, what it simply means is that you are discovering what? An unanswered what? Question in that area. And that becomes a research gap. Is that clear? So I want to say that any research that is being conducted that doesn't have a gap that it needs to fill is not worth embarking on. Anything that is called a research, scientific research, but there is no gap identified that the product of such a research process will fill, then such a research is not worth embarking on at all. The reason is because it is not going to do what? It's not going to solve any problem. Is that clear? So, research gap is an unanswered problem, an unresolved problem. Maybe some persons, some research outputs have actually maybe tried to proffer solutions to a particular problem in an area, but the solutions they have proffered, none of them has been able to do what? To be able to say that this is actually what? An answer to this problem. Is that clear? When that happens, one will say that this problem has not been what? Resolved. I hope it's clear. For instance, those in maybe in pharmaceutical world will remember some decades ago the issue of HIV/AIDS came up. It was actually a serious problem, but I don't think it is still as serious as it used to be those days. Is this still a very serious matter? Presently? Well, it is a serious matter. Why is it serious? It is a serious matter presently because that it has no cure. Is it not so? Or I don't, maybe you are in the health sciences. Has there been any cure for HIV? So there's no cure for HIV. So it is still a very serious problem. But there is something that has happened in that area. Maybe someone, a pharmacist, who begins to look at, to study this virus, will continue to study the virus to the point that he will be saying, what can be done? What is it that can be put into the human system that will be able to do what? To kill this virus. And I want to believe, I don't know, I stand to be corrected, that even till today, it is still an open research. Is it true? Yes. Is this an open research? Yes. So there has not been anyone, any of those renowned virologists that we know, we hear about. None of them has been able to discover something that can be injected into the human body that will react to the virus and bring an end to the virus in the system. Is it not so? So, what is implies that it's still an open research. But yet, so many inputs have been made in this area. Is it true? To the extent that, like 20 years ago, when someone hears that this person has been infected with HIV, the whole of the family members everybody will be crying. Is it true? So, and the people will not want to touch you. People will not want to associate with such a person because the person has been licensed to do what? To death. And not that the person has been licensed to death, but the person is already dying. Is it not so? But people have continued, those renowned virologists have continued to work on the virus to the extent that today they have been able to discover some things that will be able to suppress the activities of the virus in the human body. To the extent that someone who is a HIV carrier today may be told that you can live out your entire lifespan without any problems, so long as you are doing some certain things. Is it true? Yes. Good. So, not mind the fact that it's an open research, because there is yet no solution to it. But then, remarkable improvements have been made. Is it true? So, there is still an unresolved problem. Not minding the fact that remarkable improvements have been made in this area of research, there is still what? An unresolved problem. None of such remarkable improvement to bring a total solution to this particular area of research. Is that clear? Therefore, any single person who is looking at it, this particular person has introduced this, that has the capacity of doing this to the human body. The other person has introduced the other one. The other person has introduced the other one. But none of them has been able to do what? To kill this particular virus. Is it possible that if I introduce this particular one, combined with this other one, that it will be able to bring an end to this virus in the human body? If someone is thinking in that way, that person is what? Is talking about coming up with what? A research gap. I hope it's understood. So, the essence of the research we do today is because we have continued to find what? Gaps here and there. Any day in this world that every single question has been solved, there are no gaps that one can see again. That will be the day research will do what? Will end. But unfortunately, we have not been able to see that, because one single research to solve one problem creates what? Thousands of what? Problems. That people will continue to see gaps. There's never a time in one area of research that gaps cannot be seen. That you have not been able to see a gap in your own area does not mean that there are no 1001 gaps that are there. It is simply your own what? Your own inability to do what? To see them. But as per whether gaps exist, they are everywhere. There's no area of research that one will get into, and the person will not be able to identify thousands of gaps. But the only thing that we will be trusting God is to help us to be able to open our eyes so that we will be able to see those gaps. And as He opens our eyes to see the gaps, if we have seen those gaps, and after seeing them, we'll close our eyes, have we solved any problem? No. So as we open our eyes, as we see those gaps, we will be trusting Him to help us to do what? To profile solutions to fill those gaps. So that is exactly what we mean by research gap. And we have presented here, there are 4 categories of research gap. Number 1 is the classic literature gap. Number 2 is disagreement gap. Number 3 is the contextual gap. And number 4 is methodological gap. We will see them. Okay. What do we mean by classic literature gap? A classic literature gap is that type of gap. I am sure when we talk of literature gap, I'm sure we understand what we mean by literature. Do we understand what we mean by literature? That literature is not that thing that we read in secondary school. That people say that I am doing what? English literature, Igbo literature. That is nothing. It is part of it. But today, we have seen a lot of literature. Everywhere you go, you see literature. In every area you are, you see literature. For me, I have literature in my own area. And every one of you should have what? Literature. So if people in English are saying that they are doing English literature, you yourself that maybe you are in nursing sciences, you should be able to say that you have your own what? Nursing sciences literature. And myself that I'm in statistics, I have my own what? Statistics literature. There's literature everywhere. And what is that literature? That literature is what? Body of knowledge in your own area is literature. Is that clear? The body of knowledge in your area is what? Literature. When you begin to, all that you need to do, if you are talking of the classic literature gap, is for you to go to the body of knowledge in your own area and begin to do what? Study them. Study what is known in your area. As you continue to look at what is already known, this one is known, the other one is known, it is known that this, it is known that that. And as you continue to look at all those things that are known in your own area, by the time you get to the end, you will say that I have gone through all that are known in this area. But having gone through this, there is one particular thing that I could not see here. I don't know if it's understood. I have gone through what is already known in this literature. But as I have gone through them, I did not find a particular question in my heart. How can this one be answered? By the moment that is jumping in your heart, you have what? That is what is called classic literature gap. You have gone through the body of knowledge in your own area, but there is something that is lacking in that body of knowledge, which has come to your heart that this is actually lacking. And because it is lacking, what if, is it possible for someone to carry out a research to be able to cover this that is lacking in this area? So, by the time you are thinking in that direction, you are doing what? Discovering a classic gap. I hope it's clear. That is what we mean by classic literature gap. The next one is disagreement gap. Disagreement. Do you know it is not only, most of the times when you go to motor parks, that is why I have never seen a motor park that is quiet. I don't know if you have seen one before. Has anybody seen a quiet motor park? I have not seen anyone, because people are always disagreeing. And that is why they are shouting on top of their voices. But it is not only in the motor park that people disagree. Do you believe that? Yes. Even in various literature, people do what? Disagree. If you go to the body of knowledge in your own area of specialization, you will discover disagreements. This person has said that this particular drug has the capacity of curing this particular disease within 3 days. Another person will come up to say, no, it doesn't have that capacity unless that person that is suffering from that disease has this particular attribute. I don't know if it's clear. Another person comes and says, no, even when that person has this particular attribute, it is still not what? A guarantee that this particular drug will cure this sickness within 3 days. And such disagreements will continue, and they continue, and they continue. There is only one thing that settles or solves disagreements in the body of knowledge. What is that? Superior research. The only thing that has capacity to solve or to settle disagreements in the literature is what? Superior research. If somebody has said, that is why, just as we all know, or as we should know, In research, if somebody comes today and tells me that HIV doesn't kill, are you getting what I'm saying? Even though we know when it came, we were told that it has capacity to do what? To kill. But if someone comes today and tells me that he doesn't kill, as an ordinary person, as an ordinary human being, I will tell the person that is not true. Do you understand? As an ordinary human being in the streets, I will tell the person it is what? Not true. Because it is against the knowledge that was given to me. Is that clear? But as a researcher, I don't have the right to tell the person that is not true. As a researcher, what I will ask the person is, how do you know that it does not kill? Are you getting it from which source? Do you understand? And that is why in research, oftentimes we will be saying according to X, Y, Z. Is that clear? Something may not actually be generally true, but X, Y, Z has said it is what? Generally true. So if I want to quote that tomorrow, I will say according to X, Y, Z, this is not what? True. I hope it's clear. I am not the one saying it. There is a research output, a research work that has been done, fully conducted and accepted, and its findings have been documented in the place where research findings are being documented. And because of that, if somebody comes to tell me if something that ordinarily I should know as a layperson, I will not doubt the person. The only thing I will ask the person is to do what? To give the source of his information. If he gives the source, as a researcher, what I need to do is to do what? To go and check that source to know if that source is actually true. And if the source is true, maybe what are the conditions that are given in that source for that to be true? I hope it's clear. I'll give a very simple illustration. Maybe somebody, right from our primary school days, I remember in my primary school, I was taught average. I don't know if you were taught average in your own primary school, but I know in my own primary school, I was taught average. Is that clear? After my primary school, and I was taught that average of a set of numbers is what? The sum of the numbers divided by the what? The number of those what? Numbers that I have summed. Is that clear? That was a simple thing that I was exposed to in my primary school. When I got to secondary school, we began to do what we call measures of central tendencies. And I was taught mean. And I was taught that mean is the same thing. Sum of observations divided by the number of the observations. Is that clear? Good. Then I got to the university, the same thing continued. And as it continued, until I finished university, then I joined the services and became one of the researchers. And we were now doing what? Trying to look at that average, that mean. Is it actually true? Or can it be modified? I hope it's clear. And then, if someone begins to do a work that will now modify the mean to say that what the original intention of getting mean, that the present mean that we know is no more, is not doing what? Is not solving or is not satisfying that original intention of creating mean. That there is a modification that can be done to the mean for it to be able to meet its original intention. And the person comes up with that, thereby redefining the what? The mean that everybody has known. If tomorrow someone comes and tells me that mean is equal to this, I will not first of all tell the person that you are not what? Correct. I will rather ask the person, because I'm a researcher, how do you mean? You have said that mean is not equal to this. What does that mean? From what source are you getting it? And the person may tell me, according to XYZ 2024, that the mean has been redefined to be this because it does not satisfy the original intention. Can't you now see that that person is actually correct? But if I had, because of what I knew before, told the person that you are not correct, then I would not be sounding as a researcher. Is that clear? Is it understood? In our secondary school days, we were taught that what? That light travels where? In a straight line. Is it true? All of us that did physics in secondary school, we are taught that light travels where? In a straight line. And we grew over time to know that. But it now took people who got to the university and began to study what? Light. People began to do research on light. Every single thing they do here on earth is to study light. At a point, they now came up to tell us that light actually doesn't travel in a straight line. That there are conditions for you to travel in a straight line. And if those conditions are not there, that they can travel in other lines that are not what? Straight. I hope it's clear. Yes. And if we now tell someone that no, light travels in a straight line, and maybe you attend a seminar where someone who is a researcher has carried out a research and is presenting his research finding that light does not always travel in a straight line because of your original knowledge, which you gained some years ago. And you begin to tell the person that you don't know what you are talking about, that it is not true. The question will now be, who is actually correct? Who will be correct? Do you understand? I hope you are getting what I'm saying. So, what we are talking about is research gap. There are so many disagreements that we see in our various literature. But the only thing that gives a solution to those disagreements is what? Superior research. If you have gone through your literature and the XYZ has said this, contrary to what ABC has said, contrary to what DKP has said, and at a point, there are what? Contradictions here and there. I hope it's clear. The only thing that we can do is, from this point, how do we move? And how to move is to bring the arguments of XYZ, bring the arguments of ABC, subject them to the conditions they have subjected those of their research. And at the end, you will now begin to ask a question. Is there anything that can be introduced here that will make ABC to be the same thing as XYZ or things like that? Are there conditions where XYZ may be true, but ABC may not be true? Are there equally conditions where ABC may be true and XYZ may not be true? Are there conditions where both of them will do what? We meet at a point. I hope it's clear. When someone begins to think in that direction, the person has opened what? Has seen a gap. How do we fill this gap? It is a disagreement gap. How to reconcile outputs that are contradictory. Is that clear? So when one sees that and begins to look at it, is what? It is a gap. It's a research gap. Other one is the contextual gap. Contextual gap. And what do we mean by contextual gap? I know, like I have said, all of you research on human beings. But we know that every human being is not the same. Human beings in Europe are not the same as human beings in Africa. Human beings in Africa are not the same as human beings in Asia. Is that clear? As a result of that, somebody may begin now to say, This person has carried out a research about human beings in this area. Let me see. Does it equally apply? This is his finding about human beings in this area. Does it equally apply to human beings in the other area? Do you understand that? If you begin to think in that direction, you have seen what? A gap. It is a research gap. But this research gap is what? Is based on context. I hope it's clear. You have said that this happens this way. Wonderful. As we shift away from this context of your own research to another context, does it still work that way? Or do we expect to see changes? When someone is carrying out such a research, it is what? It's a contextual gap. I hope it's clear. And that is why I know very well, most of you, as you conduct your research, someone may say, I want to study. Like I have known someone who will say that I want to conduct a research about pregnant women, maybe in Taraba State. Do you understand? And the person raises some questions about pregnant women in Taraba State. And at the end, the person reports his findings or her findings about pregnant women where? In Taraba State. Someone else will say, not minding the fact that that has been solved for pregnant women in Taraba State, let me carry out the same research about pregnant women in Enugu State to know whether it is the same or whether there will be what? Differences. It is yet what? A research gap. Is that clear? Because the gap is based on context. Then the last research gap that we will be discussing is methodological gap. Methodological gap. When we talk about methodological gap, we are talking of method of doing things. Is that clear? As all of us know, like when I was talking initially, I said that even though I am involved in abstract research, but we have some things in common because some of my outputs you people make use of. Is that clear? Maybe you are conducting a research about a particular population and somebody will say, let us use ANOVA, for instance, to carry out this research or to analyze the results. You have used ANOVA, you got a result. I want to use it just so that all of us will be able to follow. That does not mean that the statistical tool that is used for a particular data, that the result will change if we use another statistical tool. Unless if the other statistical tool we are trying to use is not appropriate. Is that clear? But so long as we have up to 2 or 3 statistical tools that are appropriate for a particular data, if we use any of them, we arrive at the same result. But I want to use it as just for us to carry us along. So someone may now say, instead of using ANOVA, why don't I use maybe ANCOVA? If I use ANCOVA, wouldn't I get the same result? Somebody has done it using ANOVA. I will say no. Let me do it using ANCOVA. Is that clear? Now to situate it better, because you are involved in empirical research, most of you go to the field to collect data. Is it not so? And before you go to the field, you will design the experiment. Is it not so? Good. Somebody may say, I want to conduct this research using this particular design of experiment. Another person will say, no. Instead of, okay, you have used this particular design of experiment. Time will not permit us, but if we are to go into design of experiment, we have so many different designs of what experiments. Some people make use of what we call CLD, which is what is CLD again? Completely randomized design. Some people will say, let us use RCBD, randomized complete block design. Others will say, let us conduct a factorial design. And others will say, let us do the other one. So you have designed a particular experiment, and you are conducting research based on that method of what? Of experiment you have designed. You will produce a result. Someone else may say, instead of following that route, if I follow another route, will I still get the same result? Or will I get something that is different? I hope it's clear. It is equally what? A gap. So when we are talking about gap that exists as a result of the method, we call it methodological gap. So these are the various methods or the various gaps that can be filled in every literature. I want to pause to ask if there is any question. If there is any question at this point, we can take that. If there's no question, we will go on. Yes. Based on all that we have said so far. Mm-hmm.
Which one do we normally use? Is it a literature gap? Or is it context?
Let's get her question. She said, which one do we use? Normally use in writing chapter 2. And, okay, literature review. So which one do we use? That is the question she asked. Okay. Thank you for the question. Did we get her question?
Yes.
She asked which one do we use out of these literature gaps. We have talked of the classic gap. We've talked of disagreement gap. We've talked of methodological gap. We've talked of which other one? Contextual gap. So she's asking which one do we use in our own research? Yes. Okay. Okay. Answers are coming. I'm sure you are taking notes. She said, let me relay what she said. We can use all of them depending on the research, depending on what we are trying to find out. I am now the one saying that, but the way she put it is that we can use all of them depending on what we are writing on. That was what she said. But I'm now putting it better, depending on the research that we are conducting. Is that clear? You have something else to say?
Actually, the gap, she has to solve the problem there. Because if, when we are raising the research question, that is where it becomes imperative that you look for that gap there. So when you see that gap, you're able to know actually the gap to be using.
Okay. I will talk more on that, but at least we have seen a little light from the question that has been asked. And the answer to that is very simple, like all of them have said. Any of them can be used, depending on what you are interested in. Hold on. We are not at this point. At this point, we have not put our research in chapters. Did you hear what I said? I said at this point, we have not put our research in chapters. Okay? So let us continue to move until we get to a point where we will begin to put them in what? In chapters. But for now, let's move on. So it's not about chapter 2 or chapter 1 or chapter X. It is about research. Okay? Which one do we use? We can use any of them. Is that clear? As we look into the body of knowledge in our areas of research, it is possible for one person to discover more than 10 gaps. Do you understand? And these 10 gaps, maybe 3 of them may be classic gaps, maybe 2 of them may be contextual gaps, maybe 1 of them may be disagreement gap, maybe the remainder may be what? Methodological gaps. Is that clear? Having seen all of them, it now depends on which one appeals more to me. Number 1. Number 2, which one or which ones are more feasible to be addressed within the conditions that I have, the prevailing conditions. Do you understand? And when we are talking of the prevailing conditions, we can talk of facilities available, funds available, even the respondents. Do you understand? I may be interested in filling a particular gap, okay, in a particular research area. And because I have so much interest in that research area, on that, to fill that research gap, I may jump into the research. And by the time I get into the research, it will come to, I may have laid a very wonderful background for the research. And it is now for me to go on step by step. One of the steps may be, now go and collect sample. Go and collect maybe information from your respondents, from individuals that you are going to use in the research. Do you understand? It is then at that point you will discover that you won't be able to see such individual. As beautiful as that research may be, as interesting as it may be, you discover, unfortunately, you don't have any what? You don't have responses. There are no responses that will aid you to get what? Findings. And unless you have such responses, you cannot get a research output. What do? That is the end of the research. I want to give a very simple and very quick example. There may be a research that one is interested in doing about human beings, and you will need responses from individuals, right? But such enumeration will be called what we know in statistics as destructive enumeration. There are enumerations that are destructive. What I mean by enumeration, using the language of statistics, enumeration simply means coming in contact with individuals to collect information from individuals. Do you understand? So there are certain enumerations that are destructive. How do I mean? Any person that has been marked as what? As a member of your sample. You have included such a person in your study. Means what? Obituary announcement for that person. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't understand? There are certain information that you will need to study about individuals that will require for you to get such information from every individual. That individual will die in the course of getting the information. Do you understand? And maybe for this research to be acceptable, you will need about a sample size of at least 10. And the question will then be, for you to proceed in such a research, it means you are going to get what? 10 human beings that must die for you to come up with an output. Do you get what I'm saying? In such a situation, the question will be, will you proceed? You cannot proceed because you don't even have one individual. And this one is not for you to call kidnappers to go and kidnap human beings. It is for you to advertise it. I want to conduct this research, but the condition is that for you to be included in this study, you will die in the course of it. Maybe when you die, there is a certain amount of money that will be paid to your relatives. If you are interested, contact me on social and so number. Do you understand? And you need 10 of them. And you may wait for the first 1 month. The person has contacted you. 2 months, 3 months, 1 year. You don't have any person that has contacted you. So the question will be, will you continue with such a research? You cannot continue. So that's exactly what I mean by depending on the conditions. Is that clear? So when you have different research gaps, you will now begin to look at what? the ones that are feasible for you to do what? Attend to within the what? Within the resources that you have. Is that clear? And again, given the time lag. Another one, maybe you are doing an MSc program. And MSc in University of Nigeria Nsukka is 18 months. We know it. Yes, 18 months in paper. Is that clear? But that doesn't mean people graduate within 18 months. So don't laugh over it and say, wow, it's not possible. People graduate within 18 months. He said? Not in paper. I don't want to believe that. Not in paper. But let's move on with that example. So, you are doing can we, I don't know why we are making a noise, please. Can we have one house, please? So, you are doing an MSc program. Maybe I will wait for you to finish making noise. Do I continue? Yes. Okay. So maybe you are on an MSc program, which is 18 months. And you have a research. You have seen a very wonderful research gap. Okay? And in that research gap, for you to be able to fill that research gap, there is a research, you need to go to the lab. Okay? And the condition of the lab requires that you will be in the lab for 3 years for you to be able to generate data. Are you following me? Yes. That research gap is very wonderful. And if you feel it, it will be a wonderful accomplishment. But the question will be, will I be willing to be in the lab for 3 years for me to be able to get data? Do you understand? Maybe I have spent 1 year already in the program. And if I go to the lab, even from now, the data will mature in 3 years' time, making it what? 4 years. Then when I have the data, I will now come out and begin to do what? Analyze the data, which may take another 1 year. Do you understand? Now, given it that I will need to, for me to embark on this particular research, I will need a minimum of what? 4 or 5 years. Will I be willing to stay for 5 years for me to get an MSc? The answer may be yes to someone. The answer may equally be no to someone. If it is yes to you, because you are interested in it, you can go to that. Do you understand? And that particular research gap may be what? It may be a methodological gap. Do you get what I'm saying? Yes. At the end of the day, you come up with a finding, you have filled it, it's a methodological gap. Again, it may be a classic gap. It may be any of these gaps. Do you understand? So, any of them can be a gap that one needs to fill in the research. So, can we go on now? Okay. You know, one danger of asking for questions is that once you ask one person lists a question, so many others will start coming. Okay.
There is maybe a definition that has been used for years. So somebody did a research, came up with another definition, and then 2 years later, another law is set based on the previous definition that has been used. Then you observe these two, and now look at like the one that was done before this law came on, and you begin to reason what would be the implication of this definition that is being abandoned. Can it be a mistake that is? Can it be something that someone can act on?
Okay, I hope we got the question she asked. I will give you a very simple and straightforward answer. My answer can be yes or no. Okay? Based on the question question that she has asked. Yes, maybe the area you are in, you are not cut out for such investigation. I don't know if I will have to explain it further. Yes, because if you conclude it, it is a finding. Do you understand? But no, maybe because that where you are not meant for such a research. Do you get what I'm saying? For instance, now, maybe you are an MSc student, and as an MSc student, it's not everything that maybe you see in the literature that you begin to say, let me go and fail. Do you understand? There may be some that are too elementary at your level to be looking for its feeling. Do you understand? While there are some that are higher than you at the level where you are, for you to begin to think of feeling. There are some that are what? At par with you, that if you begin to venture into, it will be what? It will be acceptable within the height you are in your research. So it is possible that that can be a research, but research gap. But that gap may not be for you. It may be for someone else. Do you understand? I don't know if I've answered the question. Because in choosing a research topic, for instance, it is not everything, every problem that you see that can make a research topic for you. It should be the one that will do what? The one that is commensurate to the height you are. Do you understand? So that maybe because I have looked at the literature and I have seen something that is very interesting, that I will not know that for me to embark on this, maybe it requires someone who is in a national center of virology to do that. And I will begin to think, because I have known a little of this, I can venture into it. I may not be able to come out of it. Again, there may be something that I will be seeing, and I will be saying, let me find out this. And if you find it out and they present it, somebody will ask you, is that all that you have maybe spent money and spent time on? Do you understand that this is not what the degree you are doing, what you are applying, or rather that you are studying? I hope it's understood. So it can be a research gap, but every research gap is not at par in terms of complexity, in terms of tedium. Do you understand? So when we have seen a gap, we will now begin to, at the same time, ask a question, is this something that is within my scope to do what? To go into. Do you understand? And it is because of this that has made anyone that is doing a research program to have a supervisor. That when you bring a problem that you have looked at, it is so sounding so interesting to you, and you present it to your supervisor. Maybe by listening to it or by seeing it, your supervisor will just smile and say, so what do you want to find out here? You will begin to analyze, begin to explain, very wonderful, and you are so passionate about it. At the end of the day, this person will tell you, well, that as passionate as you may be about this particular topic, that there is nothing there, do you understand, that can give you this particular degree you are looking for. Maybe you have seen it and it is very interesting to you. It is important to have noted it. We will rather give it to the person or the group of people that is within the scope of the people that will be looking for such a thing. Do you understand that? Okay. So let's run from this point to continue the research gap. I said that research is identified mostly, research gaps are identified mostly by careful, extensive, systematic reviews. They are identified. I was talking before and I said that it is possible you are sleeping and Holy Spirit will just put something in your heart and you wake up and you will say thanks be to God. You go and write it down. It is very possible. You understand? I hope it's clear. But we are not going to discuss that because it is not scientific research. Is that clear? Because we are not going to discuss that, we are discussing the process of scientific research. And the process for us to be able to discover any gap in any field of study, we get it by what? A careful, extensive, systematic research literature. It is important that we will understand that maybe I want to believe that somebody in medical lab science is here. Is it true? Do we have any person from medical lab science here? Yeah? Good. Medical lab science is not a literature that we are talking about when we're discussing research. we are talking of systematic, how will it be for it to be systematic? Usually, it is done what? I said reviews are carried out chronologically from the earliest available findings to the latest. I hope it's clear. Maybe you have come to a research area and a subject jumped into your heart, and you go into that research area to begin to look at that particular subject. Is that clear? You first of all begin to ask, where did it start? From where it started, from the day one that is known to you, you start from that point. As you look at that area, that's finding, maybe it is possible that the originator of this particular area may have originated it in 1925. Is that clear? People looked at it when it came out in 1925 and said, okay, what if we do this to it and do that? Then somebody now modified it in 1928. Another person 1932. Another person 1940. Another group of people 1947, 1952, 1957, 1970. And it continues that way. Do you understand? You are systematically reviewing that literature from the earliest, and you continue to come up until 1980, until 1990, until the year 2000, until 2010, until 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24, until even the latest 2025. Do you understand? You have followed this area from the very day one until where it is now. By the time you will be doing these reviews, so many things will be jumping up in your heart. This person has obtained this, maybe in the year 2020. Another person now said, instead of standing at this point, what if we take it up a little this way? And that person published what he found out in 2021. Another person said, yes, it is very wonderful for it to be here. But what if we shift it to the right? In 2022, somebody shifted it to the right and saw what he found out. Then, when it is already in the right, that same right, somebody picks it and says, wow, this is very interesting. Since it is very good at this level in the right, what if I push it up in that right? And how will it be? Somebody did it and found out something, that it is better than the previous one. And this person published it in 2022. Somebody now says, even though it is good here, but looking at some conditions, if I bring it up to this point, at that higher height, how will it be? Do you understand that? And it continues in different dimensions. People are saying it should be, to the extent that at every point in time, you will be able to, the moment you have reviewed one maybe publication, you will see up to 3 different gaps that can be filled in that paper. You will now take another one that is done later than that one. You will see that maybe out of these 3, this person has addressed one. Do you understand? Even when this person that has addressed this one, when you read it, there is some other thing that is coming up. Maybe it has been addressed in this way, but what if it is addressed in this other way? Will it not be better? I hope it's understood. And it continues to the extent that you can form a kind of a tree. Do you understand? A tree of gaps. Each one is linking the other, until you come to the latest finding in that area. So by the time you have looked at all of this, there's no how you will now have at this moment. You will have several unanswered questions in that area. The question you will now be asking, saying is, now this person did this, I can do this one. If I do this one, I will be able to, you what? Choice? a matter of conditions and a matter of interest that you go into. Okay, thank you very much. So, by the time you finish this review, there is no human being that will finish a review and the person will not have what? Several gaps, reasonable gaps. But the problem is that some researchers are lazy. I must have to admit that. That is the major problem of research. So many researchers are lazy that they don't want to do. I want to give an example. During our undergraduate years, okay, there's someone that called me. That was last year. He was a year ahead of me in our undergraduate days. Okay? But when he graduated, I think he went into the banking industry. And so many years he was in the banking industry until I don't know what made him to leave banking industry, or whether he was pushed out of the banking industry, or whether he voluntarily left banking industry. But recently he left banking industry, and because while he was in the banking industry, he was able to get his master's degrees. So when he came out, he got himself attached to one polytechnic and as a lecturer. So the moment he came into academics, now you must continue to study. He needed to do his PhD. So he registered for a PhD program, and he made a call last year to his own classmate then, who happened to be my colleague now, that he is doing a PhD program, and look at the area he is working on, and he is having a challenge getting a research topic with his supervisor. He equally mentioned the name of his supervisor because every academic in Nigeria will know each other. Do you understand? Not that you know everybody, but you know people in your area, anywhere the person may be. So when he contacted my HOD said, okay, that there is someone that she is going to send his number to him, that he is the only person that can help you in that area because that person is in that area. For her, she's not in that area and she cannot help. Do you understand? So one day this person called me and introduced himself. He was someone I knew those days. And after sharing and exchanging pleasantries, he now told me how he got my number and told me his challenge and told me his supervisor that is having a challenge getting a research topic, that the supervisor has given him until a certain time that he should be able to get a research topic. But he doesn't know. And I asked him, okay, so how do you want me to assist you? He said, if I can help him to give him a topic, to get a topic for him. I told him no. Because even my ordinary undergraduate students, I don't first of all decide to give a topic to a student. My MSc and PhD students, I don't give topics to them. But but somehow I still give them topics somehow, but I don't give a direct topic. First of all, they all know what I do, the type of things I do. I'm talking of like my PG students, they know the type of things I do. You understand? And if you are coming to me, you should be able to develop interest in what I do. Do you understand? And if you have interest in what I do, then the next thing I will begin to tell you is, okay, you are interested in what I do. Fine. Go and look at this. Do you understand? Go and look at this. Just read it. Read through everything in this, and then check other references on this. When you finish it, you come so that we will discuss. I'm sure you understand what I mean. So this man, we began to discuss. He said I should give him topic. I told him no, I won't give you a topic. So what I will do for you is very simple. Your supervisor, you know he is working in this area. Fine. And I am equally working in the same area. There's one thing you are going to do. It won't take you so much. It will only take you maybe highest 1 week. 1 week of intensive maybe work will give you what you are looking for. Take out time. You have your internet. If you need maybe places where you can search in your internet for you to be able to get results, I can assist you in those ones. Then you go and begin to search in that area. Search in the internet. Get so many publications. If you can get up to at least 20 publications in that area, published in, again, it's not only 20 publications, because you know there are journals everywhere. You know, even the ones you don't know, places you don't know, people can publish there. But that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, every single area has mainline journals. Do you understand? So I told him, get at least 20 publications in the mainline, published in the mainline journals in this area. Then when you have got it over time, make sure you start from the earliest. At least you must have those of 1980s. And again, you must have those published up to 2022, 2023. If you gather them, if you don't, you are the type that cannot read through the screen, usually spend a little money and print them out. If you cannot print them out, but you can manage reading through the screens, put them on the screen and begin to go through them. From the earliest one, as you are reading them, you are writing things that you are, the understanding that you are making out of them, and possible directions you will be getting from them. If you do it from the first till the latest, I am 100% sure that you will not have any need of anybody again. You can go down without any paper. Two of you will discuss and discuss meaningfully. And at the end of the day, you will have a topic. He said, but this and but that. I told him no. He was not comfortable with what I told him. And because he was not comfortable, he didn't call me again. And I didn't equally return the call to know how far he has gone. But that is the best way I know on how to get things done. Do you understand? The reason is because if I had given him a topic and he goes to present that topic to his supervisor, and the supervisor by mistake or by anyhow approve it, as he is coming out from the supervisor's office, he will call me that the supervisor has approved the topic. Thank you so much. You have really assisted me. Do you think that is the end? That's not. That is the beginning. That is actually the beginning of the work. You are the one that started it, so you must finish it. So you must finish it. Every blessed day, he will call you on phone. I need a direction. Tell me how to move. You tell him, move this way, he will get there, and he will stop and call you on phone. I have got to that point. What next? You will say, jump up, he will jump and call you. I have jumped, what next? I hope you understand what I'm saying. So, meaningful research will not be done. It won't be productive. And such a person will never become a good academic. Because even when the person the person may eventually succeed and finish that research work. Do you understand? And the person may even have A in the thesis and may have a wonderful, but the truth is that it will be difficult for that person to be able to discuss that. It will be very difficult because the person doesn't own it. I'm sure you understand what I mean. So the best way to own a research is to go through the rough way. And if you go through that rough way, it will take you something, but it's just at the beginning. If you have painstakingly go through that, you will find out that even when you are busy doing so many things, if you don't fall back to that your research work, you are not satisfied, you are not comfortable. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Sorry, excuse me. Hello, sir. Good day, sir. Thank you, sir. No, I came to Enugu today. I'm not in Nsukka. Okay. I was talking and I told us that this is something that I know, I have experienced, and it is actually true. If you have painstakingly go through a research work, you won't feel satisfied, you won't be comfortable if you don't go to that work, if you are not visiting that research work. Do you understand what I'm saying? Why do you think? For instance, do you think that laboratory, is it better than bedroom? If you are asked to choose between a lab and a bedroom, which one will you choose? Why do you think that will make someone by 3 a.m. in the night, he's in the lab? What do you think is propelling such a person? Well, you may say that maybe such a person is doing research, but this type of research is not a research that is targeted at earning a degree. This person has got all the degrees, but he has decided to leave what? His bedroom. 3 a.m. he's in the lab. What do you think is driving him? Passion is driving him. And that passion was born out of what? Out of following the rough way. Any person who has not followed the rough way to research will not develop passion for research. There are people that they can do everything in a day. Every wonderful thing in a day. Anything, think of anything. You can, if it is a matter of taking out, you can take the person out. Buy every wonderful thing for the person. That person will appreciate it. But if he continues to do all those wonderful things as you think, as it were, and the day is gone, and that person looks at the time and the day is gone, and that person has not visited his research, that person will suddenly become sad. Because there is something that is driving him to that place. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. Nobody can develop passion for research if by saying, do this one for me, what will I do again, sir? Passion doesn't come by that. Passion comes when I begin to do what? If I begin to go through the rough way to be able to understand what research is about. Even when I am cooking, my mind, part of my mind is on the research I'm doing. Sometimes even when I'm sleeping, I will sleep and wake up and at the midnight, and I will go and begin to write down something. Why? Because my mind is in research. It is developed. It is not something that comes by any other thing. It is what? something that is developed. And the only way to develop it is to go through a rough way to research. I want to advise us, even in the course of this workshop, that we must learn, if we want to actually be researchers that will amount to something in the research community, we must learn to go through that rough way. Because if I have developed research, I already know the likely results I can get. Do you understand? Not that I have known the result, because if I have known the result, there's no need for the research. But I have known the likely results to the extent that if I'm getting something contrary, something will begin to tell me something is wrong somewhere. You need to go and check. It's because you have developed yourself to become what? To become a researcher. And that is what the training we are doing, even though we are in a program to earn a degree. But I know it will not end in earning a degree. Some of us, or many of us, will continue in the research community. So, for us to be able to continue, we must try to take that painstaking way so that we'll be able to have that passion for research and continue in that area. And that is the best thing for any human being. For me, any day that I don't look at research, I don't have any other lab to go to. I'm not like you people, that will go to the lab or you go to the field. I don't go to field, I don't go to lab. But my laptop is my lab. Any day that I don't open it, I don't feel happy. I will be sick. You know the correct word. Any day that I don't open my laptop, I will be sick. Because, and that is why, there was one of my colleagues that the thieves came to his house and stole his laptop. And that person almost died. Somebody may be thinking, but it's just your laptop. What about it? Can't you? Maybe we can even buy you a tray of this laptop, but it's not about that. There are things there that he may not recover again in his lifetime. So, that is the life of a researcher. And it can be developed. And the best way to develop it is to start now. And if I may equally say this, let me equally say this as we are talking now. If you are running, after your PhD, there's no other degree. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
In your area of research, in your area of study, once you bag PhD there, except elsewhere, there are other places where after getting your PhD, you have PhD. But even in the University of Nigeria and Nsukka, it is there. But I don't think it appears as if it is in the it's as if it's in the program of the PG college for it to be there. There is Doctor of Science. I don't know if you people know about it. There is Doctor of Science, different from PhD. PhD is the point that one will attain in his life. It is an announcement of someone that the person has been fully trained to become a researcher. If you have not got a PhD, you have not been fully trained to become a researcher. So, but getting PhD is becoming fully trained to do what? To carry out, to go on in your life to be carrying out research. So, after PhD, in this part of the country, there's no other degree. We know that. And that is why we must not joke with PhD. If something is actually trying to tell us that we will eventually become researchers, we should not joke with PhD. You can get people that will help you, give you a topic, give you a direction, give you this, and you are just moving. And especially you may have a wonderful supervisor who doesn't want you to suffer. Is it not so? My supervisor is very wonderful. You will come and say, oh, go and do this. You go and do it and report to him or her. He will look at it and say, beautiful. So you now take it, go and do it, you go and do it. You are doing all those things and you are happy. At the end of the day, you will finish and get your wonderful A in your PhD. But unfortunately, you have no other time of training. You have exhausted your training periods. That is why you will see someone who has finished and has got PhD, but that person cannot do meaningful research. There are such people. The reason is because they only went through the program to get their degree, but they were not trained to become researchers. I hope it's clear. So if you are ever thinking or looking at it that there is a likelihood that you will ever become a researcher and you are doing a PhD program, don't joke with it. Make sure that you go through all the necessary trainings, because all those necessary trainings, they are not doing anything. You know, sometimes students, even when I was a student, I thought that way, that my supervisor was delaying me. I don't know what I have. I don't know the problem of this man. You cannot satisfy him. You will do everything you think that you have done so wonderful. You present it to him, he will tell you that, what do you mean by this thing? You have not done anything. That in fact, he will just cancel it before you. That you have not started. That you need to go and start. And you will be complaining. I don't know what I've done to this man. You will continue to complain. But if you talk to yourself and tell yourself the truth, there are things you ask yourself. Is there any other thing that this man is demanding from me? And by the time you have x-rayed everything and you discover that there's no other thing, then the next thing you need to tell yourself is that you should do what? You should sit up. And by the time you sit up, if you have become fully trained, I want to tell you, there is no research that will come before you and you will not be able to handle. But everybody that registers for a program will want what? A fast way. So that within a record time, I'm in PhD program, 3 years I have graduated. Wonderful. We will clap hands for you. But the question is, were you trained in that program? We need to be trained. So I have said so many things, but it is for what the point we have raised for you to sink very well into us so that we will not joke. PhD program is not a joke. It is something that one will go through and will be convinced in his heart that he has been fully trained. I used to tell my students that the type of training I received, it is very possible that I don't know so many things. Do you understand me? But I don't believe that I don't know so many things. Within me, I don't have that belief that I don't know so many things in my area. But when we begin to check it of a truth, you will discover that I don't know so many things. But the type of training I have received is such that I always tell myself, anywhere in this world that my area is being discussed, I can go there and discuss it with them. Because of the type of training I have received. Because what is it that is done there that I cannot do? I don't believe that there's anything that I cannot do in my area. I don't believe so. It's because of the type of training that I have received. But if I have not received such a training, even the ones I know I can do, fear will not allow me even to venture into it. Because I will always be telling myself, what do I know? I don't know anything. That is always the problem of someone who was not trained. But if you are trained, you claim to know the things you don't know. And when you get there, at any point in time you face such a challenge, you will tell yourself that it has come. This is a task. And you begin to face it headlong. At the end of the day, you will get results. That is what adequate training does. and adequate training for us to do research, we must be able to do extensive literature review. Until we do that, we will not be able to amount to anything in our area of specialization. The reason is because there are so many things. The world is evolving, and the research outputs are jumping up every day, here and there. But it requires you to be well trained, because if you are well trained and you have done extensive literature review and you have understood it, even the ones that are yet to be published, you will be the one that will be looking to check in to see if there is any new knowledge in this area. But if you are not interested, if you are not trained to do that, all that you will be saying is, let me just graduate. If I can graduate, I am satisfied. After this workshop, I'm sure that somebody will be spurred to go into doing extensive literature review, to be able to discuss your area, because it is possible. So, the intentions of extensive literature review include what has not been considered in the literature. They are the things that will be guiding you, areas of disagreements in the findings of earlier researchers, contexts upon which findings have been made, and the procedures applied to reach desired results. I'm sure at this point I want to ask again if there is any question. If there is no question, I will plead that we break at this point. Nobody nobody argued that. Everybody said yes. I thought I was the only person that was tired. I didn't know that many of us were tired. Go ahead. Okay. Let's listen to her question, please. Okay. Okay. So do literature review is a simple thing, even though it is equally difficult because it's time consuming. How to do that? I want to think of something as an area. Okay. There's something that just jumped into my heart. And that is maybe someone is disturbed and is talking of, is interested in insomnia. Okay? I'm sure we know what that means. Yes. Good. Yes. Someone is so much, he just jumped into his heart. And he decides, I need to find out the causes, how we started, remedies, everything about it. Is that clear? I will go into the literature. Everything I'll be looking for is that. Okay? First of all, I will not be, if I see a work that was done in 2022, it will not make so much sense to me. I may again see another work that was done in 2010. It will not make much sense to me. I will be interested in going down, moving to the earliest one, until when I get as early as possible. Not that I may not get where it started or where the publications on it started, but so long as I have gone at least, given a span of more than 30 decades, more than 30 years, I'm able to see a work, then I will now begin to check papers that have cited that work that was done maybe in 1980. Okay? I will check all the papers that cited that work. For instance, in the internet, if I see a paper, you will see a place, cite. I'm sure you understand what I mean by that. CITE, you will see it. If you click on that, you may see all the papers, publications, later publications that cited that one. You will download them. When you have downloaded them, so each of them you downloaded, you begin to see the ones that cited them as well. Do you understand? When you see them, you download them again. At the end of the day, you may begin to see that what? There is what? Inter-citations. Because the ones that cited this may have equally cited this and so on and so forth. But when you have gathered all of this until the very recent, be asking yourself, is there any paper on that is published in 2025? If you're able to get that, you have got 1980, all of them until 2025. Assemble them. Do you understand? When you have assembled them, begin to read them. Now, it is equally important that I mention this. When you have got all the works that cited that earlier work of 1980, not all of them that cited that work are deep in that discussion. Do you understand? There are some that may have cited it just in passing. Do you understand what I mean? Those ones that cited it in passing, they are not part of your literature. Okay? So when you have gathered, let us assume that I saw maybe 30 publications in that area from 1980 to the latest. Do you understand? I will begin to check those that cited or those that discussed that in passing. As I look at them, as I will be doing what? I will be sieving them out until it is possible at the end of the day, I have only 10 that mainly discuss that issue. Do you understand? I will start from the earliest work amongst those 10, and I would read it thoroughly with understanding. If I have read the first work with understanding, every other thing that is being built upon it, I will understand them. Do you understand? But my major task is to make sure that I have read that first work with understanding. If I have understood the first work, I will be taking notes of the things I am discovering, different dimensions it is moving. Do you understand? I will read the second one, read the third one, until I read this most recent one. By the time I have done that, I can on my own write about these subjects by quoting what people have said there. And there are several gaps that will be jumping up in my heart on where to extend this one, where to extend that one, dimension to move. Do you understand? So at that point in time, I have now become so much abreast of this area that I can talk about it, I can discuss what people have done there, I can discuss challenges there very well. And I have equally discovered so many gaps. It is now a matter of convenience for me to say, let me pitch my tent on this particular gap. Let me study this. Do you understand? That's how to do literature review. There's no other way to do it for it to be meaningful. Yes?
How do we balance? Because when we are writing our supervisor will sit down and use the most recent English literature. So how do we balance?
Okay. I cannot counter your supervisor. I cannot equally fault your supervisor. But there's only one thing I will say. Are you following me?
Yes.
And I will say it. What I will say is this, that just as in recent works in your area, as important as they may be, those works started from somewhere. Are you getting what I'm saying? And those places those works started from, they are much more important than the recent ones. What supervisors, I want to believe at this point, frown at is when in your literature review, we are talking about all the obsolete things. Do you understand? You don't have recent ones. I don't know if you understand me, but it is not possible. Okay, If I'm writing a paper, for instance, now, there's a paper I wrote, and I cited a work of 1900. Do you understand what I'm saying? I cited a work of 1900. Somebody did in 1900. I cited that work. But if I had ended at that point, it would have been an error. As important as those ones are, they must have what? Be complemented by recent ones. Do you understand? So that is the only thing I will say about that. The earliest words are important, the recent words are important. To me, for me, I want to say this. If someone is carrying out a research, maybe in my area, and everything the person is talking about is findings of yesterday, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2024, it may make a very wonderful research. Okay? But to me, that research doesn't have a foundation. It is lacking foundation. There is need for the foundation. So, as I am interested in citing 3 works that were done yesterday, I should equally be able to cite only one that was done so many years before, so that there will be what? There will be a balance. That is all I can say about it. Yes.
I want to, I think the two feminists that would not understood what this stuff is all about. I think we're missing it. We're missing it. We're missing it all. If I understand correctly from what you've been teaching us all this time, I want to say that the gap itself is something you find out before you even make a decision on the topic you're going to choose. It's by going through those literatures that you understand that, okay, maybe, for instance, now in nursing, we have different specialties. And even in those specialties,
Yes.
we still have areas of interest. For instance, medicine, I can have an interest in gerontology, that is study of the elderly. Then I can come to the elderly and say, okay, I'm interested in chronic illnesses that this elderly suffer.
Exactly.
And I can also go as well to say, okay, in this chronic illnesses, I can tend to say diabetes and hypertension.
Yes.
What is the relationship? Then when I now come to that aspect, I can begin to look at literatures that talk about diabetes and hypertension as they interact. So that's when I will start looking for literatures that have to do with that particular topic.
Exactly.
When I look at them, then from the literatures I've seen, I'll be able to pick a problem from the ones I've seen that have not been answered.
Exactly.
So when I get that gap, I'll apply my topic surrounding that gap, then I'll begin to write. Then from what you also said about literature, looking at things that have been done before. Some departments they will tell you you cannot put down a reference that is 10 years, more than 10 years. So I feel maybe when it comes to academic settings like this, for you to get a degree, you can abide by those. But when you're done, if you're writing like research after you're doing, hey, you can talk about, you can put them down as reference, those past ones. It will make more sense than that maybe now you can read it for pleasure to get the knowledge to build your base. But I don't think it will be okay to put it among your reference, but they'll tell you to remove